Gimel Tevet, 3rd of Tevet, it marks the Hilula of a really great Syrian rabbi. His name was Rabbi Yaakov Kassin Z'tl. Now, he was born in the English year 1900, and the great Chacham passed away on the 6th of December in English year 1994. That would mark the 3rd of Tevet. He would become a great Kabbalist. He would be, let's just say, one of the founders of the Yeshivat, המקובלים, Gan, Lebanon, in Jerusalem. And he would become the Syrian rabbi, let's just say, of the Magen David congregation and ציון congregation in Brooklyn, respectively, where there's a very, very great, large Syrian Jewish community over there in the United States of America. Now, let's explore some of the highlights of the great rabbi's life. Now, he actually was born in Jerusalem, and his father was a great rabbi, also Rabbi Shaul Katzin. He happened to actually be himself a great Kabbalist, the author of the great terrible books called Imre Bina and the Pri Tzadik, and very, very much was one of the great rabbis of his specific time. I believe that when he was young, he would learn in a famous yeshiva, a place we've spoken about on this series before, called the Yeshivat or Hel Moed over there. And I think while he was, which actually happened to be a very prestigious yeshiva in Jerusalem, and that actually was a forerunner, let's just say, of the famous Yeshivat Porat Yosef, which let's say is a bastion of the Sephardic Yeshivot in Israel. And he was known in Jerusalem, even at the age of 16 years old, for his extensive knowledge, let's just say in the Gemara, in the Talmud Bavli in of itself. I think, sadly, he was an orphan by the age of 18. It was reported over both his parents had passed away due to severe illnesses by that point in time. And I think it was difficult at that point in time. It was difficult all over the world during the mid-1910s era in of itself. And unfortunately, I think he suffered, reported over, from stomach problems, and it caused him pain, unfortunately, for many years. Nevertheless, he continued to focus and really, really exceed and excel in the Torah study in himself, Torah and Kabbalah. And then he would get married to Rabbanit Mazal Hedaya, really, really great Rabbanit. She actually was a daughter of the famous Kabbalist Rabbi Shalom Hadaya, another great rabbi we've spoken about in this series before. Also, we spoke about Rabbi Ovadia Hodaya, another one of the great Dayanim of Jerusalem, happened very much to be part of the family. Also inside, he was one of the great Dayanim of Israel, without a doubt. And he would end up becoming a teacher in the famous Yeshivat Porat Yosef after learning there for a specific period of time. And I think he was actually living right next to the yeshiva in of itself, an apartment near there. And he was able to teach Torah even till late at night inside the yeshiva even of itself. And he was able to write numerous books and writings within regards to the Kabbalah. I think come the late 1920s, he was appointed a Dayan and will become, let's say, a Dayan, a judge in the Supreme Bet Din court of the Sephardic community of Jerusalem, which is a very, very great, prominent position at that point in time. And he was able to publish numerous books, especially specifying on the topic of Kabbalah in of itself, including, I think, the Or HaLebana, the Yesod HaEmuna, the Pri Etzagan, as well as many others. I think it was so great worldwide, globally, his reputation at a point in time. I think come the year 1932, he would be about 32 years of age at that point in time. He was asked to travel to the United States to raise funds for the Sephardic orphanage of Jerusalem. So many people will come out as a Shluchei D'Rabbanan from Jerusalem, or from Hebron, or from Tzfat, or one of these great Tiberias, or one of these great cities in Israel, and travel the world to raise funds and mitchazek those countries at the same time by giving lectures, so on and so forth. He would come to America, and he made a very large impact on the Syrian community in Brooklyn at that stage in time. It was reported over he spent 6 months there, and he would then go on to sign an agreement that if it ever entered his mind to leave Israel, he would reside as a rabbi of Magen David in Bensonhurst. This was reported over. There was an excellent article I see on the שערי, ציון website in of itself. That's what's quoted over. I believe after a year of, let's say, pleading, they really wanted him to return. Rabbi Kassin accepted the offer to become the chief rabbi of the Syrian community in Brooklyn. This was in a time period of 1933. And at that stage in time, he would also have 4 young children come with his wife, Rabbanit Mazal. And from the start, he worked let's say, very tirelessly and really mitchazek, strengthen the Talmud Torah in itself. There was a synagogue, the Ma'oz Lebion, and there was other organizations at that point in time. We know that he was very, very instrumental. It was reported of in creating key institutions such as the famous Magen David Yeshiva, and Sephardic Center, and many other places in of itself. And I believe it was calculated, reported over that over his period of time as chief rabbi, over 40 institutions, new ones, were established at that point in time. There was very heavy responsibility, obviously, as a rabbi of the community, and it brought huge encompassment in of itself, and was really great. He reported of he had great tolerance, self-sacrifice, exemplary, let's say, character, midot within regards to it. And he was very, very much loved in the community, respected, and huge confidence from every community member. And he was able, there was, I think, turbulent times in the community reported over. And during his point in time as the chief rabbi, he would, let's say, preside over thousands of events, such as various Brit Milahs, Bar Mitzvah, weddings, funerals, and Jewish life cycle events in of itself. And it's reported he even personally, this is what I hear over here, he even personally interviewed and counseled over 2,000 engaged couples in preparation of their marriage. That's absolutely incredible. And pretty much every occasion was complete with the presence of the chief rabbi, Chacham Kassin. He really did strive on shalom and achdut, peace and unity. He headed the Bet Din over there. Obviously, a Bet Din is put inside the different communities to settle disputes and keep peace among the people. He reported that he kept the people and families together by respecting, let's just say, everyone's individual needs, whether they were rich or poor, young or old, observant or not observant. We know that there was enactment, famous enactment of the marriage edict in the year 1935, because at that point in time, the community, there was many, let's just say, issues that were taking place at that point in time. I'd let everyone to research on it themselves. And he would put this enactment about in the year 1935 to protect the community, let's just say, from outside influence. And he really foresaw the troubles that could potentially come within the community, and saw that this was necessary measures in of itself. And I would recommend everyone to look into this specific topic in of itself. And sadly, he passed away in December 1994. He was 94 years of age. And I believe his body was flown to Israel and would be eventually buried in Har HaMenuchot Seminary, the Mount of Rest, let's just say, burial plot in of itself. His son, Rabbi Shaul Kassin, would then take over, I believe, in the year 1994. And we spoke about the great Chacham, Rabbi Shaul Kassin, just recently in of itself. He was very, very much a great rabbi. Now, it's actually interesting. Rabbi Yaakov Kassin, he had many great rabbis in of itself, including Rabbi Chaim Shaul Dweke Cohen. He was a Talmid of Rabbi Raphael Shlomo Laniado. Also, Rabbi Yaakov Ades, another one of the great Syrian rabbis, especially in Israel. I believe he was a head yeshiva of Porat Yosef. And famous Rabbi Ezra Atiyah. He was another one of his rabbis, of the great rabbi. So he really, at the time in Porat Yosef in of itself, he was really learning under great rabbinic auspices, and which I have to point out also. Let's say it's actually interesting. I think he had a great brother. His brother's name was Rabbi Shlomo Katzin. I think he was actually born himself in the year 1909 and passed away in 1982. Was famous shochet. He was a mohel also, Mora Hara'ah, and he was a rabbi of the neighborhood called the Nachlat Achim and Nachlat ציון in Jerusalem, respectively. He will become the head of the Jewish court in Egypt and the Dayan in Yafo in Tel Aviv, respectively. That was his brother. Really, among his sons, as we said before, Rabbi Shaul, his oldest son, I believe, he obviously would take his place and become the chief rabbi of the Brooklyn Syrian community in of itself. I reported over, I think his daughter, Charlotte, got married to Rabbi Baruch ben Chaim, who's a very, very great rabbi. I think he himself passed away in the year 2005. He was a Dayan. He was rabbi of the, let's say, Jewish congregation in Darom, Africa. Really great. He was a rabbi of the Kahilot, of the Syrian community of Magen David and Sha'ar ציון, respectively, in Brooklyn. and in New York, and that was his son-in-law, and many, many great descendants in of itself. Let's explore now. We spoke about the works he wrote before, including Or HaLevana, which was, I believe, divided up into 3 different halakim: Or HaLevana, Or Chadash, and Or Chayim. Then there was a shut, a Sheilot and Shuvah book, questions and answers. It was contrast on the 4 areas of the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law. Very interesting enough. And Yisod HaEmunah, another great book, and Tochachot Megula. This was Musar and Tochacha, let's say Musar and Rebukes, which I think was printed from through Rabbi Moshe Ma'aravi. Very interesting enough. Then there was a Pri-Etz Hagan, which we spoke about before. This was the first chelek, the first part. It was a biography on his father, Harav Shaul Katzin, another one of the great rabbis of Syrian history in of itself. And there was a Pri-Etz Hagan, which was the second chelek in of itself. And then there was a Kitzinei Aratz, which was a Sheilot and Shuvah book, question and answers book, on, once again, the 4 areas of the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law. And he was really, really a great rabbi. Passed away in 1994. Rav Shaul Kassin did, one of the great Kabbalists of his time, born in Jerusalem. And I would recommend everyone to learn more about the great rabbi in of itself. And we've already covered inside the series about, let's say, maybe about 50 great Syrian rabbis of yesteryear we've already covered. And we're trying to learn the history of the great Sephardi Rabbanim of yesteryear time in of itself. And we see the greatness of so many rabbis we had. He was, during his time period, just to add on a few things, he was close working with various different great rabbis all over the world in of itself, especially while he was in Israel, with Rabbi Nissim Elishar, Rabbi Shalom Mordechai Azulay, Rabbi Moshe Ades, Rabbi Yecheskel Matalon, Rabbi Yosef Shlush, many great rabbis. This was in Jerusalem at that point in time. And he was connected to Rabbi Mordechai Yuchas, another great rabbi we've spoken about before. He was a head shochet. Rabbi Yaakov Meir, who was, I believe, Rishon LeZion, and Rav Kook. Also, I think he was ordained. He received smicha to the rabbinate and dianate, respectively, over there. It was actually happened to be Rabbi Ezra Harari Raful, another great rabbi we've spoken about before, who I believe sent him originally to Brooklyn at that point in time as a shluchei d'Rabbanan in order to raise funds. Eventually, he would end up with a position and become, let's say, the chief rabbi of the community in of itself. In the Bet Din in Brooklyn in of itself, he was worked especially with a famous rabbi, Rabbi Eliyahu Hotzni, another great rabbi we've spoken about before. And we just see the great rabbanim that he was working with on a daily basis, and the amount of people he inspired was absolutely phenomenal. So please, everyone, don't forget to light candles in his memory. It is going to be on Gimel Tevet over here. And please subscribe to the channel. If you happen to be related to any of these great Chachamim, please, I would love to hear more. So wishing you all well. Take care. And Shabbat Shalom, because we are coming into Shabbat Parashat Vayigash this week.